He drove for peace, not danger. Daniel Mercer believed abandoned places were silent. Harmless, empty, but silence can listen. His car was found exactly where he parked it. Keys inside, wallet untouched. He walked into a structure that should not exist. A place erased from maps, sealed by time, and never walked out. No body, no struggle, no witnesses. Only footprints that went in and never came back. Years later, investigators discovered something hidden beneath the concrete space that responded to human presence. A chamber that watched. Someone knew about it. Someone had been sealing it for decades, and when the truth surfaced, it was buried again. This is not just a disappearance, it is a warning, because some locations are not abandoned, they are waiting. There are places in America that look ordinary from a distance, a stretch of road, a quiet building, a forgotten structure, but once you step closer, you feel it. The air changes, sound behaves differently, and silence begins to feel heavy. This story begins with one such place, a location hidden in plain sight, visited by thousands, understood by none, and it begins with a man who believed nothing could happen to him. Daniel Mercer was 37 years old, a routine-driven man, reliable, predictable. He worked long hours as a logistics coordinator, spent his evenings quietly, had no criminal past, no enemies, no risky behavior. Daniel lived by schedules, timetables, order. On weekends he liked one thing: driving long, empty highways, rest stops, abandoned roadside locations. It helped him think. He documented these drives privately, not for fame, not for attention, just habit. On a Friday evening, Daniel packed a small bag: camera, notebook, flashlight, water. His plan was simple: to drive through an old service road connected to a decommissioned transport site, a location no longer active but still accessible. The place had no name on maps, just coordinates. Former workers described it as a transfer point used decades ago, then forgotten. Daniel told a coworker he would be back by Sunday. Nothing unusual. Saturday morning, he left early. His car was seen on highway cameras, moving steadily. No stops, no detours. The road narrowed, trees thickened, cell service weakened. By late afternoon, he reached the location. Concrete structures stood silent, cracked walls, rust-stained metal, wind moving through broken frames. Daniel parked near the entrance and recorded a short video describing the place calmly. He walked inside. The interior felt colder. Echoes stretched longer than expected. Light behaved strangely. Daniel noticed personal items: old chairs, discarded tools, footprints, recent footprints. He stopped recording. Later that night, his phone stopped transmitting location data. By Sunday morning, Daniel did not respond to messages. Calls went unanswered. His car remained parked at the location, locked, undamaged. Inside, investigators would later find his notebook, last entry unfinished. The place had no witnesses, no cameras, no clear exits, only silence. And the silence suggested Daniel Mercer had not left the way he entered. They expected a simple missing person case, a man who wandered too far, a wrong turn, an accident, but from the moment investigators stepped inside the abandoned site, nothing behaved like a normal disappearance. Search teams arrived before sunrise. Fog clung to the ground. The structure looked unchanged, silent, still. Daniel Mercer's car was exactly where it had been parked. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no damage. Inside the vehicle, they found his phone charger, wallet, keys, everything a man would need to leave, except the man himself. The hook of this case begins here, because nothing was missing and nothing made sense. Investigators entered the structure. Concrete corridors stretched deeper than expected. Light faded quickly. Sound echoed in unnatural ways. Old offices appeared, untouched chairs, still upright. Papers fused to desks. By time yet, the dust told another story. Footprints moved inward, but did not come back out. Thermal scans showed no living presence. Dogs picked up a scent that stopped abruptly near a sealed corridor, as if Daniel had vanished into the air. His notebook was found near the interior wall. Pages filled with observations, sketches, times. The last entry ended mid-sentence. "I hear something moving below." No further explanation. Security experts confirmed no underground tunnels, unofficial records, no basements, no access shafts, but the structure had been altered decades ago. Documentation was incomplete. Blueprints were missing. Former workers were questioned. Most remembered nothing unusual. A few recalled rumors, sounds at night, equipment failing, people refusing to work alone. Local law enforcement expanded the search, perimeter helicopters, drones, ground teams, nothing. No tracks leading into the forest. No evidence on nearby roads. Days passed, then weeks. Daniel's family arrived. Shock turned into frustration, frustration into grief. His sister stood near the entrance daily, staring into the darkness, waiting. Media attention stayed minimal, no crime scene, no body, no suspects. Officially, the case shifted to inactive status. But something new appeared. A nearby traffic camera captured movement near the access road 3 nights after Daniel disappeared. The footage was unclear, a figure standing still, facing the structure. The timestamp showed 3 hours of no movement. No vehicle entered. No vehicle left. When enhanced, the figure could not be identified. No face, no clear shape, only presence. Investigators returned to the site, this time with engineers. A sealed section of wall showed signs of disturbance, not recent, but not original either. Behind it was a narrow passage, unmapped, descending. The air temperature dropped sharply. Equipment malfunctioned. They stopped the descent for safety reasons. The passage was sealed again, and the case stalled. Years later, a maintenance crew found a symbol scratched into the concrete near the sealed wall, a marking that did not match any known code, and that discovery would reopen everything because someone had been there after the search ended, and they wanted to be seen. The investigation was far from over. 5 years passed before the case was officially reopened, not because of public pressure or new witnesses, but because the location itself refused to stay silent. When a private infrastructure survey was ordered for redevelopment, and engineers returned to the abandoned structure with updated scanning equipment, discovering something that challenged every previous conclusion. Behind a sealed corridor, the scans revealed a large, irregular hollow space extending deeper than any known blueprint, with no record of it ever being built, prompting law enforcement to lock the site down again under federal supervision as Daniel Mercer's name resurfaced. Old files were reopened, evidence boxes pulled from storage, and his notebook examined page by page under different light, revealing faint impressions on the last page where a sentence emerged. "It knows I am here," confirmed in Daniel's handwriting. Disturbing investigators because there was no indication he believed another person was present. No description, no threat, just awareness. When the sealed passage was carefully reopened, teams descended into stale, heavy, unmoving air, and flickering lights led to a wide underground chamber with raw, unfinished stone walls, marked by non-modern tool marks, where investigators found Daniel's flashlight, clothing fibers, fragments of his camera, but no remains. And more disturbing still were lines and repeated shapes on the walls, identified as positional markers used to measure movement over time, suggesting something had been monitored there, shifting the case from a missing person to a controlled environment as former employees were re-interviewed, and one night shift worker finally described vibrations, low-frequency sounds, and disorientation, known as the hum, dismissed by management, admitting a section had been sealed after an unreported incident in which someone else had gone missing, leading investigators to uncover a pattern of disappearances near similar abandoned infrastructure sites across different states, prompting the formation of a quiet task force that traced property records, decommissioned facilities, and unmapped alterations to a recurring name in maintenance contracts. Elliot Crane, a retired private contractor specializing in structural modifications, who denied involvement but went silent at Daniel's name, and whose journals, diagrams, coordinates, and repeated sentence "it responds to presence" led to his arrest, during which he claimed he sealed spaces not to hide crimes but to contain something. arguing the structures amplified natural phenomena like resonance and pressure. Insisting Daniel entered willingly, and the space closed behind him. Testimony partly dismissed as delusion until surveillance footage from Crane's property showed movement in abandoned sites after Daniel's disappearance, revealing that someone had been watching not just Daniel but the places themselves, forcing investigators to decide whether to expose the truth or bury it forever. The confession did not come in a courtroom, but in slow, reluctant, heavy fragments, as Elliot Crane never admitted to harming Daniel Mercer, and instead insisted on something far worse, claiming he had understood what others ignored. Explaining in his final recorded interview that certain mid-20th century structures behaved differently, not because of design, but because of location, pressure points in the earth, natural resonance, and spaces where sound and vibration folded inward, which he called listening places, saying the chambers were never meant to be entered but only monitored, observed, and sealed, and that when Daniel walked inside, he triggered not a trap or mechanism but awareness, with the chamber responding to human presence as prolonged exposure caused disorientation, memory loss, and then disappearance, arguing that sealing the passage was meant to stop others from following, not hide evidence, until investigators challenged him for proof and were directed to archive never digitized maintenance logs where one decades-old report described a worker entering a lower chamber and never exiting. No remains located and the section sealed, a date matching the final operational year, confirming Daniel was not the first, yet with no body and no public physical explanation. The case reached a breaking point and Crane was charged only with obstruction, failure to report, and unauthorized modifications, which he accepted without resistance, making one final request to be taken to the site that was refused. And 2 weeks later, he was found dead at home of natural causes, according to official records. Though unexplained, was that all surveillance screens in his house were active and showing the same abandoned structure on a live feed, after which the task force was dissolved, files sealed, the site permanently closed, and Daniel Mercer's case listed as unresolved, with no criminal responsibility established and no closure for his family. As the structure was filled with concrete, the entrance buried, and the road erased from maps. Yet reports continued of hikers hearing low sounds beneath the ground, experiencing electrical interference and sudden unease, leaving a lesson not about fear but about curiosity without caution. Because some mysteries remain unsolved, not for lack of answers, but because the answers cannot be contained. And Daniel Mercer walked into a place that did not forget him, and somewhere beneath the surface something still remembers.